We are announcing the release of a new book. This is the third week of our 4 weeks of 4 new releases from Justin Center Publishing. And this release is Leonard Huter's Compend of Lutheran Theology. Now, we had a previous edition of this that we have published in the past, but now we've revamped it and it's been reformatted. Some typos have been fixed throughout the text, and it's received an upgrade as our American Lutheran Classics volumes have. And this is now part of our Classics in Dogmatics series. So if you're not familiar with Leonhard Huter and his impact within the Lutheran tradition, Huter was a very significant author following the publication of the Book of Concord. Now, initially, at the time of the Reformation and the immediate post-Reformation era, Philip Melanchthon's Loki was the standard theological or dogmatic textbook that was used in theological schools in Germany, as he was the preeminent systematic or dogmatic theologian of that particular era. Now, at the time of the writing of the Formula of Concord, the publication of the Book of Concord in 1580, there was a lot of debate surrounding some of the issues in Melanchthon's Loki, surrounding the questions of free will and the Lord's Supper. And because of some division and debate about exactly what Melanchthon meant by certain things, and the debates between the Gnesio-Lutherans and the Philippist school, there was a need for a new dogmatics textbook, one that would replace Melanchthon's Loki, and largely because of the debate about some of the wording that he used. So the Elector of Saxony commissioned Leonhard Huter to do exactly that, to produce a single volume, a compendium of theology that would essentially be the new Loki. And that became the Compend of Lutheran Theology. Now, it was the mission of Huter here to formulate something like what Melanchthon had done, but largely through using the language of the Book of Concord, largely through using the language of Scripture and the Lutheran confessions, so that you wouldn't have these hotly debated issues, so that you'd have an agreed upon dogmatics textbook that represented what was the theology of the Book of Concord. So what you basically have here is essentially quotes largely from the confessions themselves, but arranged in a dogmatic manner. And he does add his own thoughts and things in there as well. But the way that this particular work is written is in a catechetical format, question and answers. Just like in Henry Eyster Jacobs' Summary of the Christian Faith, which we also publish, which was meant to be kind of a contemporary expansion of that earlier work. And so throughout this book, Huter goes through the major topics of doctrine. He speaks about the doctrine of God, the doctrine of man, angels, sin, Christology, salvation, eschatology. He addresses all of those basic topics with a number of questions and then answers that are largely taken from Scripture and Lutheran confessions, as well as some citations from Luther and others as well. So this is supposed to be an ideal, it's created to be this, and it really is, an ideal single volume summary of the theology coming out of the Lutheran Reformation. It's not meant to be such an extensive work as are some of Gerhard's works and Quenstedt and Hollatz and some of these other figures who write these massive multi-volume works that probably are quite a bit intimidating to jump into. So Huter's is an excellent one-volume textbook. And it's really important, not only because the theology is still relevant today and it's an excellent work, but also just as an element of the history of the church, to see the beginning of the dogmatics textbooks that would then expand throughout the next couple centuries into those massive works of people like Gerhard. So this book was first published in 1609. It was taught in many schools throughout Germany. And the edition that we have published is an English translation. This English translation was done by Henry Eyster Jacobs, who, as I mentioned before, himself wrote something like this based on this. But prior to that, he gave a translation of Huter so that that could be used in Lutheran seminaries and Lutheran schools in America as an introduction to Lutheran thought for an English-speaking audience. So even if you think the Book of Concord itself is a little too maybe intimidating because of its size, and because it's not systematically arranged in the same way, this is really a great introduction to the theology of the Book of Concord and the theology of the Lutheran Reformation. So if you'd like to pick this up, as well as other works that we have, including those in the Classics in Dogmatics series, go to jspublishing.org, and you can find it there under our Classics and Dogmatics series. So thanks so much, and stay tuned for another announcement next week about another new release. God bless.